Hello everyone, this is Aethel. This is the fourth episode of my science mode playthrough on KSP console. So finally today we're going to be going to Duna. Now I'm going to try to take this over 1 hour long unedited video and compress it down as much as I can, but still, give out the tutorial. So first I'm making sure that I get a Duna transfer window, meaning if you're to draw a line from Kerbal to the sun to Duna, that line should be about 44 degrees. So basically like a right triangle. It's pretty easy to notice. So this lander is basically going to be like the Mun lander from last episode, except with parachutes and a little more delta V. I was shooting for about 3,000-ish meters per second, which is a bit overkill, but it's better to have more delta V than less delta V. Now for the mothership, we're going to use a series of fuel tanks and a Wolfhound engine. And the budget for the mothership was about 4,000 meters per second of delta V, which is a bit overkill, but now we're just going to cover it with the payload and a mainsail engine stage. And originally I was going to use thoroughbred boosters, but then I decided to use 2 twin bore engines, which is pretty ridiculous, but the thoroughbred didn't have enough thrust to really like get into orbit, so I decided to go with this one. We're gonna add an extra fuel tank too, because why not? And now we launch. Now I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with getting into orbit, and you should be familiar with landing on celestial objects by using the Mun and Minnas. But this is the first interplanetary mission we're doing on this series, so I might go a little more in depth on that. Now we're going to create a maneuver node escaping Kerbal and towards Duna. And make sure you set Duna as a target so you can see the target indicators whenever you create the maneuver node. And yeah, you can see them line up until you get a Duna encounter. Now it doesn't have to be perfect first try because we're going to make a mid-course correction anyway. And then we're going to do our science in space high above the sun. Now we're going to do our mid-course correction by messing with normal, anti-normal, prograde, retrograde, radial in, radial out, etc. You want to get a nice low periapsis, at 60 kilometers, or if you want to be a little more risky, within the atmosphere. Now Duna's atmosphere starts at 50 kilometers, but it's so thin that you can't really burn up in there. I mean, you probably could, but it's very difficult too. So we're going to plot our maneuver node to circularize around Duna and do our science high above Duna and near Duna. So I kind of air braked a little bit, so we're going to put our periapsis out of the atmosphere just so we don't crash into Duna. Now we're going to burn the lander retrograde, and also I don't know if there's a way to fix this, but I kind of had to deploy every parachute individually. Also, we're going 10 meters per second. You want to slow yourself down to a nice steady speed. And there we go. We have a nice landing on Duna. So now you're going to do your science, do an EVA report, surface sample, stroke your ego a little bit. Now, biome hopping on Duna is not really something I'm a fan of doing. It's possible, but it's very risky. So if you're a new player, I wouldn't recommend it. But a way to make up for it is that we're going to be doing a flyby of Ike. And we're going to get science from Ike. Now, we're not going to land on it, but we're going to do science high above Ike and near Ike. Now we're going to wait for our mothership to be just around overhead. Now, this is going to be a little more difficult because we don't have connection to the Kerbal Space Center, so Bob Kerman cannot make maneuver nodes, but there is a way to do it. Now, there is atmospheric drag, so you're going to be a little bit gradual about your tilting on Duna. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get into a circular orbit, not perfect, not perfectly equatorial, but a circular orbit around Duna. So basically what you do is that you repeat the target retrograde cycle. It's a bit lazy, but it's the way I do it. Now, the thing with Duna, its atmosphere is so thin you don't really have to worry about, because if your orbit is a little bit in the atmosphere, then that's fine, as long as you're not like deep into the atmosphere. So in the atmosphere, I just watch the intersecting nodes get closer, and if they get further away, I burn prograde relative to the orbit. So now you're gonna have Bob do an EVA and transfer. You take the data from the lander and back onto the mothership. Now what we're gonna do is that we're gonna get a flyby of Ike. Now you're gonna do science in space high above and near Ike. Now, I was actually going to land on Ike with the Duna lander, but I didn't want to risk losing all the Delta V and getting Bob stranded. Now what you're going to do is you're going to send your ship on a collision course with Duna, and then you're going to detach the lander and then burn prograde again so you don't crash into Duna. now you're gonna write for a Duna to Kerbin transfer window, which is, if you were to draw a line from Kerbin to Sun to Duna, it'd be about 80 degrees. Now you're going to make a maneuver node on Duna's bright side, and then with the transfer window you should get a fairly easy Kerbin encounter. Now we have plenty of delta V, so we're going to make our mid-course correction. Now we're going to capture at Kerbin. And then we'll just burn retrograde at our apoapsis, and then we'll end up landing on Kerbin. As you can see, we got over 2,000 science from that. So what I'm trying to unlock here is the seismic scanner and the magnetometer, because the magnetometer gives a lot of science, even more so than the Science Junior. And also unlock the Mun launch site, which is pretty cool. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and see you guys later. Also, I'm still gonna try to think about where to go next.